We woke up in a trail angel's yard and got ready to actually do some town chores. We needed to resupply and figure out whether or not the Rocky Mountain National Park portion of the CDT we were about to hike was actually open. There were mixed reports, but the consensus seemed to be that it was closed because of last year's fire, so we unfortunately had to miss it and come back later. After a pricey resupply and a long breakfast, we started down the road and eventually got a ride up to the portion of trail that was open. It was pouring rain at this point and morale was low. Switch, Kid, and I had planned to go farther, but with the weather we weren't really in the mood and decided to set up camp and get dry instead of climbing over a pass. It was another early morning to avoid big climbs in the afternoon when the risk of thunderstorms were higher. I was very sluggish climbing over Bowen Pass until some clouds started to roll in, which finally prompted me to speed up a bit. I'm going super slow this morning. It's like 10. I've only gone 4.5 miles or something. But it smells so good out here because of the rain. So that's one upside to being soaked for days in a row. We're not sure if we're even going to get enough sun to dry out our stuff today. Hopefully we do. We stopped early last night because my knee was hurting. It was just pouring rain. We didn't want to go over the pass while it was doing that. We also heard a lot of thunder, so we only went like 7 miles yesterday. Got to camp nice and early, which is always nice. And yeah, today we're trying for 26. We'll see how it goes. In the afternoon, we walked through a huge burn area from the East Troublesome Fire. When I finally caught up to the boys for lunch, they were huddled under a makeshift shelter, and I was grateful for a small chance to get out of the rain. We had our last climb above 12,000 feet after lunch, but couldn't be sure what the weather would do, so we kept an eye on the sky the whole time we climbed. Somehow we got lucky, and the skies cleared for our ascent to Parkview Lookout. The shelter was pretty cool, and we spent some time checking it out before unfortunately moving on to get some more miles in. We just made it up to Parkview Lookout. We had a beautiful weather window. We were all the way up there. You can kind of see it in the background. And yeah, it's been a great day. You can see the remains of the East Troublesome Fire from last year all back there. Kind of sad to see it at this scale. I was slow on the descent because of the pain in my knees, but I didn't mind the extra time to take in the views. Moments alone on trail are great for reflecting on exactly how it is I ended up here. And I don't necessarily mean just my questionable life choices, although those play a part. I mean reflecting on the fact that I walked all the way here, to this incredible spot from Mexico. And not only that, I get to see so many things along the way, just due to the nature of the journey, that most people never will. I'm not sure I would have ever hiked up to Parkview Lookout if it weren't for the CDT, and man, I'm so glad I did. Luckily, the boys stopped early that evening, so even though I hiked alone in the dark for a bit, I didn't have to for very long. Kids' parents were meeting us for a visit in Steamboat, and we had 28 miles to cover before we got to the road where they'd be picking us up at around 6 p.m. We left early to get our morning climbs out of the way before coasting downhill to the road. The scenery was definitely changing as we approached Wyoming, but it was still very pretty. When I caught up to Kid at lunch, I set him free. AKA, I told him he didn't have to wait for me, and he took off. After eating, I realized I could probably make the road by 6 if I continued to hustle, so I made that my goal. The afternoon was boring and mostly uneventful, except for running into Jim, a trail angel who gives hikers water, and sometimes, if you're lucky, cookies. After Jim's, it was a hot walk to the road surrounded by cows that were mooing bloody murder, but I did eventually make it, right on time. We met up with friends and had a great zero with Kid's parents. I picked up a new shirt and we stuffed ourselves with food. Before returning to trail, we stopped at Strawberry Hot Springs and had even more food.
It was hard to go back after time off with kids' parents, but we were closing in on the Wyoming border, which helped a bit with morale. The campsite we chose had some of the worst mosquitoes I've ever seen, so we decided to have a fire since Colorado didn't currently have any restrictions, and it did help just a little. After stopping pretty early the day before, our goal was to hike a 30. We were up early and the mosquitoes were too. Just before lunch, we entered the Zirkel Wilderness, which was uniquely beautiful. We had a long afternoon above treeline with sweeping views of northern Colorado. In the evening, storm clouds came in, and there wasn't much tree cover, so I tried to hustle to get at least a little lower in elevation. I was forced to stomp through a marshy area, and my feet did not make it through safely. We decided to camp just a bit earlier than 30 miles and have another fire to keep the bugs away. It was the day we hit the Wyoming border, and it started off right with some Trail Magic leftover pizza from a car camper. The day was hot with deceivingly little shade, and at some point I took an alternate to avoid a washed out bridge, accidentally passing Kid. After some effective, although delayed in reach communication, we met up for lunch before several more climbs.
We are outside of Steamboat by about 2.5 days. We left town after 0 with kids' parents, which was lovely. The Zirkel Wilderness is kind of different from most of the places I've been in Colorado, but really cool looking, and spent a lot of time up and somewhat exposed yesterday. And then it started to rain, went through some marshy stuff, and then finally hit camp. And then today, we're trying for at least 25 to get to the Wyoming border. We're gonna get to Wyoming today, which is absolutely wild to think about. It does not feel like we should be done with Colorado yet, but at the same time, it feels like we've been in Colorado for forever. Think back to when we hit the border, when we went south from Cumbers Pass because we couldn't hike through from New Mexico, and it just feels like ages ago. There's so much snow in the San Juans, and then, I don't know, Colorado's been a real challenge, and it's pretty exciting, and I don't know, I feel really proud that we made it through this whole state. I'm getting kind of emotional, actually. I'm gonna miss being in our home state too, but I'm really excited for Wyoming, and the winds especially, and maybe knock out some big miles in the basin. I think it'll be interesting to walk through an area like that, which I've never really done. So I am 3.5 miles from the Wyoming border, which is very exciting, but I am very tired, pretty tired. Luckily the trails are really chill, but kind of a dirt road, just like meanders up and down. Not really any steep climbs, but or if they are, they're short. But I don't know, it's just been really sunny and hot today. We're at lower elevation than we have been. Ready to be there, ready to be done with Colorado, but also kind of sad.
At golden hour, we finally reached the Wyoming border. An entire state done in what simultaneously felt like an eternity and the blink of an eye. It was also a wake-up call about how much we had left to go. We were truly only a little over halfway through, and the thought of that was both exciting and exhausting. It was town day, and just 19.6 miles and a hitch stood between me and the tiny town of Riverside, Wyoming. The day kicked off with a trudge through a bog and continued to feel like a long, miserable slog. I think the 1,000-mile slump was setting in at just over 1,200 miles into trail, and I was ready for another town day just 3 days after my last.
Today has been quite a drag. I'm just super tired, and we had 20 miles into town. I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. I'm drinking some caffeine right now to hopefully inspire me to move faster for the last 3 miles into encampment, our first town in Wyoming, which I am excited about. hopefully we're gonna celebrate. I feel like we really didn't celebrate that much at the border. It's kind of a quick, got there at night kind of thing. We're due for some celebration at the RV park probably, because I don't think we're gonna get anywhere like a bed to stay. I think we're just doing an RV park, get some food, get some resupply, leave and do a decent day tomorrow as well. So hopefully I can keep it going.
When I finally made it to the road, Switch, OJ, and I waited 3 hours for a ride while being swarmed by mosquitoes. Once in town, we found an awesome, cheap cabin to stay in, ate at one of the only restaurants multiple times, and celebrated our arrival in Wyoming with a local brew.
This is one of those great moments where there is a sign, but definitely no visible trail.